So that was quite a day yesterday. After a call with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, U.S. President Donald Trump decided to pause the planned 25% tariffs on Canadian goods. But despite the 30-day delay, Canadians are still, let's be blunt about it, pissed. There are many Canadians who feel outraged by calls to become the 51st state, and across the country there have been collective calls to buy Canadian. A few hours before the tariff pause was announced, I headed to the grocery store in Toronto to see what fills a Canadian cart. All right, let's get a cart and do some grocery shopping. So if we were just looking for things that are grown in Ontario, I mean, as soon as you come in, there's these bell peppers, product of Mexico, not for us. Tomatoes from Mexico, mandarin oranges from the USA. I wonder if you can get any fruit at this time of the year. Oh, look, these tomatoes here, a package of little cherry tomatoes, are from Ontario. We could get these. That's great. And these two, these salad tomatoes, the larger ones, also product of Canada. There's apples from Ontario. Mini cucumbers, also a product of Ontario. So you can still get some fruit and some vegetables. What about on this side? Spain, Mexico, USA, Mexico. Look, there's carrots, multicolored carrots, product of Ontario, but your cauliflower's from the United States. The lettuce is from the US, but not the baby carrots. Up here, these greens, if you're looking for romaine lettuce, that's from the USA.
Like all the lettuce is from the USA.
Have you been looking to try and find some grown in Canada things?
Oh, I'm buying all, yeah.
Are you?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
No,
it's
fine.
not Galloway.
We're from CBC Radio. Can we ask you a couple questions?
Sure.
Sure. Tell us what your name is.
Gail Funston.
And tell us what you're doing here now. You're doing your grocery shopping.
Doing my weekly grocery shopping.
You have the list there, and are you looking for buying made in Canada things?
Yes, completely. So far, I've been able to get everything that was either Canada or Spain or some other place, but I've just been looking at the lettuce, and I can't find so far anything that's not USA.
Why are you doing this?
Because of the tariffs. Yeah, it's a protest for sure.
Do you think it's going to be difficult to fill the cart? I mean, the list, there's a lot on that list. Do you think it's going to be difficult to check everything off and not have to buy something grown in the United States?
Oh, no, I'm really going to try.
Good luck.
Okay.
Thanks. Nice to talk to you. Thank you. Should we head out of the vegetable section into, what about like in the packaged foods if we go down this way? What about cereal? If you're looking for breakfast cereals, what do we have here? Maybe you want like some Cheerios. I have no idea. It says product of USA. Okay, so your Cheerios are not made in Canada. What is this? Don't try this at home, kids, but the Lucky Charms. Product of USA as well. There you go. No Lucky Charms for you. Life cereal, Quaker Life, made in Canada from domestic and imported ingredients. So you get both kinds there. Great. Maple syrup. If you want to get your Canadian maple syrup, no shortage of that. Peanut butter. The giant maple leaf right on that package there. It says prepared in Canada. Now, if you're looking for beans here, like chickpeas and things like that, where are these from? Are you shopping locally?
Buying Canadian.
I'm from CBC. Can I ask you a couple questions?
Sure.
Sure. Tell us what your name is.
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey, what are you looking for here?
Anything that I can replace American brands with.
And what have you got so far?
Right now going to Clark Beans, cheddar from Quebec, cottage cheese from Ontario. Nothing American's going in my shopping bag.
Are there things that you have had to do without because you've made that decision?
Sure, absolutely. But I would rather do without than cater to what Trump is trying to do to us.
Thanks for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
for
luck.
Asking.
Let's have a look down here. If we were to make some pasta, you might want some tomatoes. These tomatoes are from California. These tomatoes, product of Italy. Italy #1, Muti. These are Canadian though. These are products of Canada. These Unico diced tomatoes. You could get these. We're working on it.
Yeah, we all are.
Can I ask you about that? Do you mind? We're from CBC. Can I ask you?
No.
Yeah. Tell us what your name is.
Elaine.
Elaine, tell me about buying Canadian.
Well, with what's going on in the States, I refuse to buy anything American. I would cancel my trip to the States. I'm telling people, forget it.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'll pay more for product if I have to rather than the States.
Why is that so important to you?
Because we're Canadian. And we have that bully over there, so, whatever. We're not discussing politics, but...
Thank you. Good luck.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Take
Bye.
care, Elaine.
You too.
As you heard, it's not particularly easy to keep it Canadian. There are things out there, but you have to be paying close attention to what you're putting into the cart. Fred Nelson is trying to help with that. He runs a Facebook group called Buy Canadian First. Fred is in Vernon, British Columbia. Fred, good morning.
Good morning.
It's interesting in talking to people. We just ran into a load of people who were making the decision to look very carefully, perhaps, at what they were buying, a decision that would be different than before these tariffs were announced and before the pause was announced. Are you surprised that there's been a real uptake in people who are wanting to buy Canadian?
You know, not so much. I think we're slowly becoming activists. That we're really trying to become much more supportive of our country.
Tell us what you do with the Facebook group Buy Canadian First. It's kind of crowdsourcing information, right?
It is. What really started this whole thing is I had found a list of things that were posted as being Canadian, and I had shared that in a local group, and I got trolled pretty quickly because people found that some of the things on the list weren't really accurate, that kind of thing. And I thought, well, and one person actually said, well, I should be doing my research. And I realized it's kind of hard to research things across Canada because of trade barriers and because of the vast size of our country. So I created this group and started asking people to, post the products that you source that are Canadian, and that's really gained momentum. A lot of people are getting involved to do that, to be able to share, their locally resourced products that they're purchasing and they're trying to support. So it's been a really good thing.
Are there some Canadian products that you have discovered in the last week or so that you didn't know about, that you didn't know were Canadian?
Oh, absolutely. There's, from here in British Columbia, there's so many things that we see coming across through the group that we don't see. Simply, one off the top of my head, there's one called Caprina Farms soap. It's a hand soap. We don't see that out here. Apparently, it's available through Dollarama. That's going to be a go-to soap rather than an Irish Spring or other types of soaps from going forward. St. Jean's Cannery tunas and salmons from out on the west coast here has been one that we used to purchase. We've kind of forgotten about, and we've gone back to again. Another one, Caslow sourdough pastas from this little village in Caslow, British Columbia. Incredible pasta. It's so much better to be buying this type of thing, supporting our local, regional, and national brands. It's been exciting to see how much product is really out there that we really don't get to see.
Are there things that you have had to cut out of your life because they come from the States?
Yeah, there has been. It hasn't been painful. My wife and I are both foodies, and we've gone through our cupboard, and we're actually quite surprised by how much we do already buy Canadian. It was just choice. It wasn't an activist thing. That was just what we did, and the varieties we liked. But there's some things we've definitely been putting back, and the further we go into this, the much more we're going to be zooming in on eliminating like personal care products, deodorants, and that kind of stuff. That will definitely be sourced out Canadian over the old-fashioned Old Spice and those kind of things.
Just before I let you go, do you think this is going to last? I mean, this was supposed to be the day that these tariffs are coming into place. There's now a 30-day reprieve that may go longer. They may never come into place, but who knows? Do you think this Buy Canadian focus is going to last?
We went through the pandemic where everybody jumped on board, and well, not everybody, but a lot of us jumped on board and did what we could. We got our We wore our mask and got our shots and that kind of thing. And slowly over time, things waned. But now instead of just having an invisible virus, we've got an orange plague that is going to continue to come back and haunt us.
Goodness.
So it's going to be a constant reminder, and I think it's going to last. I think people are going to continue to say, we can do something. We can stand up to you in our own little way. And one of the best ways we can do it is by purchasing our own products, something with the maple leaf on it, before we purchase anything else in the United States.
Fred, good to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Fred Nelson runs the Facebook group Buy Canadian First. He was in Vernon, British Columbia. Michael Von Masso is a professor of food, agriculture, and resource economics at the University of Guelph in Ontario. Mike, good morning to you.
Good morning, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. What do you make of what's happening now? It's not just in local grocery stores. You see this all over online. You talk to people. I was just surprised in walking into the shop how many people were looking at labels and paying very close attention to where things are coming from. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's interesting, and I think Canadians, as consumers, have a right to buy what they want. I think that it's not always easy to buy Canadian. I think if you look at some of those lists, there are things that aren't true and that are actually Canadian, and where the line is really is difficult to determine. Is something we need to determine individually. The other thing I think, Matt, if I may, is that you talked about, these products are, we bought blueberries from Peru. We don't have a fight with non-US products right now. And Canada is an exporting nation, and I have no problem with trying to buy local as much as we can. But as you said, we're pissed at the Americans. We're not pissed at avocados from Mexico or blueberries from Peru or beans from Peru. And so I think we have to decide as individuals if we're buying Canadian or if we're expressly just not buying in American.
Fair enough. Can you help? One of the things that was difficult is trying to understand some of the language here. The label might say made in Canada. It might say a product of Canada. It might say prepared in Canada. What's the daylight between all of those?
Okay, product of Canada means it's made in Canada by Canadians and with Canadian ingredients. There may be, a little bit of spices or things that come from other places. So product of Canada is 100%. Made in Canada or prepared in Canada says it's made by Canadians, but it isn't necessarily made with Canadian ingredients. And so made in Canada might have Canadian ingredients in it, but it might have more If, for example, while we grow sugar beets in Ontario, most of those get exported for processing. So sugar isn't considered a Canadian product. So if you have something that has more than a couple of % of sugar, it can't necessarily be a product of Canada because part of those ingredients are coming from outside the country. So there's and people talk, Matt, about American companies versus Canadian companies. I've seen some of those lists, we have American companies. Take Lay's potato chips as a subsidiary of PepsiCo. They are producing potato chips with Canadian labor, with Canadian potatoes right here in Cambridge, Ontario. And so, we have to decide individually where the line is and what we're willing to accept.
It was interesting in looking at the vegetables. The tomatoes I used in my salad were grown in Ontario, but it was hard, as we heard, to buy lettuce. So you end up with cabbage instead that might be raised and grown here in Canada. This is the time of the year where local fruits and vegetables could be hard to find in many parts of the country. What impact do you think the push to buy Canadian is going to have on those items?
Well, I think we need to decide two things. The first is, are we willing to be flexible? As Canadians, we're very much creatures of habit. And if broccoli was in my basket last week, it's likely to be in my basket this week.
Plus, you're also used to, part of the habit is also that you have access now to everything all the time, right?
Exactly. So if it's important to you to buy Canadian, then think about perhaps you can't eat broccoli right now. We went, much like you, to the grocery store over the weekend, and we bought carrots. We bought some of those cherry tomatoes that are hothouse. We bought beets, which were Canadian, so those were storable. We also looked at buying frozen vegetables, which isn't our preference, but we could get Ontario frozen vegetables. We could get varieties that we might not have been able to get fresh. So we have to make those sorts of decisions whether we're willing to be flexible. We also bought some green beans that were produced in Peru and said, well, we're not mad at Peru. Let's buy some green beans. So it depends, again, where your line is and what your individual priorities are.
And what you can afford as well, because sometimes that can be more expensive, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think there are definitely cases where domestic product will be more expensive, which is why we've gotten into the habit of buying non-domestic products. And that's one of the beauties of trade, frankly, is that we export what we're good at and we import what we're not good at. And in the winter, that's often fresh fruits and vegetables. But it doesn't always need to be more expensive, Matt. As I said, we bought bagged carrots the other day. They were Ontario produced, they were stored, and they weren't more expensive than some of the alternatives. They were just different. So it can be more expensive, but it doesn't have to be.
Do you think this is going to have any impact on President Trump's strategy? I mean, there's something that's happening and people feel good about this, but from your perspective, is this going to move the needle at all?
I think it has the potential. We have to remember that we're a pretty small part of the American economy, but just because it's not sort of swinging the needle at the national level, there will be companies who feel it when we change our choices, and if they are making noise up the value chain. Remember, agriculture is a big part of the Republican base. So if we're changing what we're buying, and individual firms are feeling that, I think there is the potential. To move the needle a little bit. I also think that I have never seen, or not, maybe never is a bit. I haven't in a long time seen Canadians as united as they are now. And so, doing some of these things that close the gaps between us, there's something positive about that as well.
Just the possibility to move the needle on. I mean, I'm old enough to remember endless discussions on interprovincial trade. We've been talking about this as long, I think, as high-speed rail in this country. Is this the opportunity for us to be able, we're just hearing about things that are available in British Columbia, for example, that might not be available elsewhere in the country, to be able to move things seamlessly across this giant country of ours?
Well, I think we can. I mean, we have some work to do on interprovincial barriers, but it's not a silver bullet in this instance, right? We've seen the evolution of these supply chains, which have been focused more north-south than they have east-west. We can move things east-west. That might get a little bit more expensive. Some of the interprovincial barriers are regulatory rather than actual barriers or tariffs. And I think we can make progress, but it's not a silver bullet in this instance. It's sort of incrementally things we can do to reduce this pressure.
I'll let you go, but do you think this will stick? This feels, to your point, that there is a sense of shared purpose among many Canadians. People feel, whether it's the flag or they're rallying together around something. Is this going to stick beyond this moment? Do you think the idea of trying to support domestic industries and support the people who are making things here in this country?
Well, I think it will lose some momentum as these movements do all of the time. A year ago we saw grocer people avoiding certain grocers, and that didn't continue. But I think some people will change their habits, and we are very much creatures of habit. And I think we'll see people change what they're buying and continue that because they've liked it and it's worked out well for them. So yeah, I think there is some staying power here.
Mike, good to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Have a great day.
And you, Michael Van Masso, is a professor of food, agriculture, and resource economics at the University of Guelph. Are you planning to buy more Canadian? How are you doing that? Are there things that you're willing to go without because you want to support local producers here and perhaps want to cut out those in the United States? Let us know what you're doing and how the news of tariffs is impacting your shopping. Email us, thecurrent@cbc.ca.